Hi everyone, Leo here again, and joined again by the world-famous Timothy Ferris with a new book coming out.
Yeah.
In case you missed the last video, which I think we're going to show the other video first. This is the 4-Hour Chef.
Yeah. Choose your own adventure guide to learning any skill. Languages, sports, cooking, whatever.
So I highly recommend it. I've looked through the book. I haven't actually read it yet, but it looks like there's a ton of amazing things in there about learning how to cook, but also just learning, like how to learn anything, really.
Yeah, kind of like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance isn't only about motorcycles. This uses cooking to introduce people to all sorts of different sidebars and adventures in learning in general. So.
All right, so but today we have a little fun thing where we thought we'd do a kind of no-holds-barred debate about one of my favorite topics, which is goals. Yeah. And I'm taking the anti-goals position, which I've written about on Zen Habits. I'll include a link in the post. But that's really one of the most controversial things I write about, because people they don't want to accept the idea of even the possibility of not having goals. And you are one of the best people I know at achieving goals. I mean, I wouldn't say you're at 100%, but you definitely are good at hitting those targets that you set for yourself.
I'm okay. I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I haven't written about a pro goal stance in a while.
Yeah, all right. But you know a lot about it, I would say.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's part of my daily structure. So.
Yeah. Well, since goals is really the default mode, I think, of our society. Yeah. We're trained. I definitely was trained as a kid to set goals and hit targets to achieve those goals, and that's necessary for success. Yeah. And so I've been kind of taking a step back and questioning that premise. So I'll talk a little bit about that just for a minute.
Sure.
And so you could say that I set a goal of not having goals.
Right.
But basically it was an experiment. We both like to do experiments. Yeah. So I said, what would it be like if I let go of one of the core tenets of what I usually do, which is set goals for myself. And the thing that I think of as goals is this destination, this fixed endpoint that we're trying to get to sometime in the future. Yeah. And as I was experimenting with trying to be more present, live mindfully in the now, it didn't quite jibe there. Right. This idea of having your mind set, looking towards the future, where are you trying to reach, and missing out on the steps that you're taking right now, missing out on the journey. Yep. And so I said, let's let go of that and see what happens. And what I found is that while we just tend to naturally set a destination for ourselves, if you let go of holding on to that, you're free now to kind of explore. Yeah. And physically you can go out and take a walk and maybe head for a nice hill over there, but all of a sudden you see this amazing thing going on to your right, and you kind of veer off that way, not holding on to the goal, and explore this. And so you actually allow yourself more freedom to pursue other opportunities. And at the same time, you can be more present-focused. And the other thing that I find is that people a lot of times set goals and don't achieve them. They fail at the goals, and then they feel like a failure, even if they could have had an amazing time just doing whatever they were doing. They didn't get to that destination, but they could still, I mean, it really doesn't matter if you get there or not. If you're having an amazing time, you learn a lot, you make a human connection. Yeah. Like, the goal is almost irrelevant. Maybe it's just a tool that you could use to start out. But if you don't remain fixated on it, then you can be successful no matter what you do.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we kind of set this up to be the holds-barred debate, but I don't actually disagree with much of that, if any of it. I think that the way.
All right, well, you heard it here. He's going to join me. We're going to start a movement.
Folks. We'll see you later. No,
we're going to start a movement where we're going to do the no goals philosophy.
I would say that before I get conscripted into the service, what I would say is that I think there are a few common ways in which people allow goals to be detrimental. Okay. The first is completely ignoring the process. And like you said, being so outcome-driven that they have no presence and no present state awareness. and I would say that to add to that, I view fulfillment. Success can be defined in many different ways, but I view fulfillment as a combination of achievement and appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that appreciation without any achievement is, you can be very happy or content, but there is no real ambition or not much impact on the world by taking that pure course. Mm-hmm. Total achievement without appreciation, which is very common in a sort of Protestant work ethic, outcome-driven free market like the United States, it's a Pyrrhic victory.
Right.
It's a very shallow victory.
But going back to the first thing,
yeah.
If you just have the appreciation,
yeah.
That's basically what I've been going for.
Well, here's what I'd say. So, as an experiment, I don't view that as a bad thing. If my view is to impact, or I'm sorry, if one of my goals is to change the lives of as many people as possible,
right,
within the certain sphere of influence that I have created or can create, whether it's related to finances, lifestyle, health, fitness, or otherwise,
sure.
I find having a plan to be a very useful thought construct. So this is, I think, really important. When I set my goals, I pretty much assume that I'm only going to hit 60%.
Okay.
And I would love to hit all of them, but I've just learned to expect that, like, having a 40% breakage is totally acceptable to me. And the other thing I'd point out is that I think it was Larry Page, co-founder of Google, who said that one of the things people miss is it's very hard to fail completely if you aim high enough. So if you aim to revolutionize X or God knows what, fill in the blank, that if you fail partially, you can still be very successful. So for instance, in the research for the 4-Hour Chef, I worked with a few chefs and also culinary school instructors to try to cram 6 months of culinary school into 48 hours, into a weekend, to compress all of the techniques and everything into 2 days. Which was
like fun.
It was fun. It was really painful and really stressful and very, very high octane, high paced. And a friend of mine asked me at one point, he said, well, what if you, like, how much of that are you really going to remember? Like, what, you're going to forget half of that. And I thought about it, I said, that's true, but I thought then back to Larry Page, and I said, even if I only remember half of it, that means I got 3 months of culinary school in a weekend.
Yeah.
So I could view it as very binary and say, oh, I failed. Like, I didn't retain all this.
Yeah.
But I find that having a target at least gives me something to aim for. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, well, going back again to the goal of having an impact on, on the world.
Yeah.
Like, I have that goal all the time, but then I kind of catch myself these days and I say, why is that necessary?
Yeah.
And what happens if you just say, why, what is driving me to want to have that impact? And what happens if you just kind of let go of that and focus more on the actions that you're taking, not on the outcome?
Yeah.
And so, that's actually one thing that I've been learning is that you actually have no control over what impact you're going to have. You can try to, but it's more of an illusion. So let me give you a small example. I write a blog post with the hopes that it's going to help people, right? I'm hoping this will be something people find useful. And sometimes, maybe it'll help a few people here and there. Maybe they'll find it interesting, but maybe not do anything with it. Or sometimes it'll just hit people exactly the right way, and I had no idea how they're going to receive it, and it changes their lives, or at least a handful of people. Yeah. And there's really no way that I know. Each post I write with that same intention.
Oh, sure.
And sometimes it's huge in people's lives, and sometimes it's really nothing. Yeah. And so I have no control over that. I don't know how people are going to take it or how they're going to put it into action.
I think you can't. You definitely can't predict it. I agree with that.
Right.
And I mean, just to I think look at the aligned sides of things. One of my favorite quotes, and I forget the attribution, is not all who wander are lost. Right? And
Tolkien.
Tolkien. All right.
Love it.
And if you look at, for instance, my life from mid-2000, I guess mid-2004, I might be mixing up the dates, to ends of 2005. So all of the travel, the walkabout that then led to the writing of the 4-Hour Workweek. what I decided during that period was my entire life has been regimented to 15-minute Outlook increments.
Okay.
And everything has been planned down to the finest detail. I just want to wander.
Right.
And that's what I did. So I would wander around. And
kind of a goalless existence.
Right. So if 3 people said, go to Galway. What are you doing in Dublin? Go to Galway. Okay, I'll go to Galway. I went to Galway. And then I bounced around. But every once in a while, I would find something that really excited me, like hurling or learning German or tango or whatever. And then I would move into more of a goal-focused framework.
Sure.
The reason being, if I got really excited about something and I wanted to get better at it, right, that's a natural outgrowth of my wandering. Right?
Okay.
That was a natural, positive outgrowth of my wandering that I would not have had I chosen not to wander.
Right.
Okay? Once I found what excited me, in order for me to choose what actions to take, just on a daily basis, to choose what actions to take,
you had to have some kind of direction.
I had to have some type of context.
Yeah.
And the context for me was, I want to dance tango, and my options are stay the same, get worse, get better. I would like to get better.
Yeah.
And then that informed my decisions about how to choose which classes to take or how to dissect certain moves and so forth. But I do think that wandering is very undervalued. And that could be physical wandering. It could also be existential wandering.
Sure. Creative wandering.
Creative wandering. And that only flourishes in, well, I shouldn't say only, it's a strong statement, but it can strongly flourish in a void. Like you need a lack of structure.
Right.
Right. And so for me at least, I really try to build both into my life because I don't want all structure all the time.
Right.
And even if I have a goal, I try to build in and even, I mean, as ironic as it might seem, schedule time to like stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
So I will have long dinners with friends, 3, 4, 5-hour dinners with friends, and so forth.
So you've been balancing the goalless mode with the goal mode.
Yeah.
Which I think is great.
Yeah.
And
I've tried, but all this stuff's an experiment.
Yeah. Same here. And I find the goal mode creeping in all the time.
Yeah.
And you can't just shut it off. So what I find is kind of play with that. Like what happens if I do all of a sudden want to lose the last of my belly fat? Like what am I going to do there?
Right.
And then but what I usually find is myself going back to like why is that so important? Why is it that important that I lose that belly fat? Like is it going to change my life? Is there some fantasy that I have?
Yeah.
And the truth is that's another thing, that problem that I have with the goals is that we have this fantasy of what it's going to be like when we get there.
Well, I agree with that. 100%.
And it's almost never lives up to that fantasy.
Well, I agree with that 100%. There's a great book called Stumbling On, or it might be Stumbling Upon Happiness by Daniel Gilbert of Harvard. Okay. And boiled down to its essence, the conclusion of the book, supported by research, is humans are really, really, really bad at predicting what will make them happy.
Right.
End of story. Like people are really just across the board terrible at predicting what will make them fulfilled or happy,
right,
or feel successful. So when I have goals, for instance, it's like with this book and so forth. If the 4-Hour Chef succeeds beyond my wildest dreams,
and I hope it does,
screaming. Will that be? Will that be us being in the moment? Will that solve all my problems? Will it address all the questions that I have unanswered? No, of course not. And I think that when people get themselves into a lot of trouble is when they imagine, like, if I just meet the perfect person, then all of these things will be fixed. My life will be perfect. If I just get a new job.
If your book sells 1 million copies?
Will be different. I'll be happy about it. Yeah. It will get to a side effect of me being happy with the success is it will get to a very large number of people.
Yeah.
Whom I'm confident it will impact a decent percentage of.
I guess what I'm talking about is for you personally. Like, it could change the world, which I hope it does.
Yeah.
But for you personally, will you then, be there, or is there going to be the next thing? Because that's actually another criticism I have of goals is that it's a forward-looking process that never stops. You get there, you get this perfect job, and now it's like, what's the next thing? I need to get the perfect house. You get the perfect house. Now you need the perfect wife. It's like, and it's the same thing with self-improvement. It's like you can keep improving yourself, and there's never an end to it.
Well, here's what I would say: is if someone feels, a low level of anxiety, and like they feel good when they wake up. They don't have anxiety, like they don't dread the day when they wake up. They sleep soundly. Is that a bad thing? If
a low level of anxiety.
No, like if they feel grounded in the present state and that they're not constantly putting on blinders and ignoring everything around them, is it bad that they're constantly seeking to improve upon the next thing? Is that a bad thing?
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but I think that, again, you can look into, like, why do you think things need to be improved? Like, why is it not good enough already? Yeah,
I mean, there are things. Here's what I would say is, you know, I'm very content. I actually have an exercise that I do. I don't know if I've ever talked about this. Every time I'm in a plane that's just about to take off, or just about to land, I close my eyes. I think about the people I love in my life, and I ask, if I died right now, would I be happy with like how I spent the last 48 hours? You know, and yeah, I am. I mean, the point being, I don't think that, for me at least, I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive. And I suppose I view life pretty simply, that most of the time, you know, doing what excites you and is healthy for you and the people around you is the best option, usually, not always. And when I know something's wrong, whether it's focusing on the present state or focusing on goals, it's when I wake up and I just want to go back to bed. Or I have trouble getting to sleep because I'm thinking about things that I need to do the next day. Yeah. In a negative way. Right. If I'm like so excited I can barely contain myself, different.
That's good. Yeah.
But I really tend to make big decisions based on how I feel when I wake up and how I feel when I go to bed, and I try not to overthink it.
So, you know, I think you're coming from a good place, but I think a lot of people are driven to improve themselves, improve their lives, reach these goals because they're dissatisfied with who they are and where they are, and they just don't like life in general, and they think it can be made, they can become the next Tim Ferriss if they go and hit all these goals, you know?
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. I'm not sure they want to be the next Tim Ferriss.
Well, if they're content and living in a beautiful place like this.
Well,
you know.
Sure. I mean, but I would say not to get too crazy, esoteric, but we're all fallible, right? We're all humans, and I know a lot of people who make any modicum of success that I have look like a joke. I mean, in this area, right? Like, I know just like the legends of the legends, the icons and whatnot. They all have their problems. They all have their suffering. And what I would say is, you know, learning to accept that as not even necessarily a bad part of life, but just a condition, a human condition, is really important. And what I see with people who are compulsively goal-oriented in an unhealthy way, it's when they focus on something like the work project or the business all the time. Yeah. Because if they stop running towards that, it'll force them to look at the things around them, and they're not going to like what they see. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we haven't found enough to disagree on. I think if you're gonna do goals, you should do it the way Tim does it, and I think you've got a balanced, grounded approach to it. But I promise to use some curse words, so you're a fucking idiot.
Oh, no. Leo, could you?
But anyway, thank you, Tim. That was fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everybody.